It seems we have ourselves quite the paranoid pilot. Here's a look at the Super 7 Thundercats Ultimates, Vulture Man. The cunning and ambitious Vulture Man is the resident inventor of Castle Plundar and easily the most intelligent of the wicked mutants on Third Earth. Although he's a longtime associate of mutant leader Slythe and an enemy of Lino's father Claudus, his treacherous nature has led him to work with others like General Rotaro and the Lunatics, and even the Thundercats themselves, when it best suits his always self-serving agenda. Now, before we see what evil inventions Vulture Man has up his, sleeve? Doesn't really technically have a sleeve. Let's grab the tape measure either way, though, to see how tall the figure stands. Vulture Man, in this case, is 7 inches exactly, or the figure is going to be about 18 centimeters tall. And comparing Vulture Man with a resident member of the mutants, here's what he looks like with Monkeyin. Monkeyin for a while was really my favorite of the Super 7 Thundercats Ultimates. It always seems to be the case also that I find the evil bad guys. Is there any other version of bad guys? I always find that the bad guys are more interesting as figures as what we've gotten from the Thundercats stuff. But in this case, you can see that Vulture Man is a lot taller than Monkeyin. I shouldn't say a lot taller, but he at least is a head taller than Monkeyin. For the figure's accessories, once again, we get a lot of episode-specific things that come included with Vulture Man. Follow along with me. First, the figure comes with not as interesting of things. The figure comes included with a pair of pliers, and he comes included with a screwdriver. One other thing he comes included with as well is a wrench, but there really isn't a place to store any of these things with the figure. Not a little tiny tool belt, a little tiny tool box, anything along those lines. So there's really the option of only to have it displayed in his hand or just to put it back in the packaging. I'm going to choose rather the latter. Put it over there. The figure also comes included with a series of interchangeable hands. Right now, he sort of has enough hands that, well, at least the hands in the sockets of his forearms are ideal for all the weapon accessories. But if you did want to have some finer featured hands, he actually comes with these little hands. Well, not necessarily this hand, but like this hand is ideal for like the smaller things like his tools, until I, of course, drop one on the floor. Again, he comes with a couple of variations of hands. These are really, again, the better hands, I suppose, for holding like maybe some of the weapons. Not all the weapons. Actually, I find really these hands are fine just to really accommodate most of the things he comes included with. So he gets himself like four extra hands. All of the hands, by the way, have nicely painted fingernails. As nice as long, gnarly nails could look like. I mean, at least they've been nicely painted by Super 7. Let's put those over to the side. The figure also comes included with a mutant gun. The mutant gun, as you can see, has been painted well. Lighter blue mostly, and then you got some darker blue added in there as well. There's the bear. Probably shouldn't be pointing that at anybody. But again, this also is something that fits into his hand. He also comes included with his claw weapon. I don't know why forever whenever I think of Vulture Man, I always tend to think of him with the claw weapon. Why is that? I have a claw weapon like this, and it's usually in my laundry room. It's just so I can actually reach down behind my washer and dryer just to fish out any of the clothes that fall behind. It doesn't really look necessarily like this. That's all been molded here in silver plastic. And again, this does fit into his hand. I suppose this could fit in his existing hand without even, again, having to remove any of the hands to get anything else done. You can have them holding like this. The figure also comes included with a tiny little bottle of superpower lotion, or superpower potion, I should say. I don't know necessarily if I would be labeling something like this that has such destructive natures. The one thing about it, unfortunately, though, the few times I've actually tried to put it in Vulture Man's hand and succeeded, you can see like the paint, unfortunately, has started to flake off. So you will want to be a little bit careful with that. The figure also then comes included with a pair of goggles. The goggles then fit over top of his defaulted head sculpt, or the more screamier, angrier Vulture Man that we'll look at in a second. It's actually made of softer, rubbery plastic. The figure also comes included with the voice changer, specifically the voice imitator. Vulture Man creates this so he can actually mimic the voice of somebody else. I think he actually does it with Mumra. This, again, fits well in his hand. It's made of more of a lighter white plastic with a little bit of detailing done here in brown. The figure also comes included over here Again, with the voice, not the voice imitator, but he comes included with, what's the name of this one? It's the shifter gun. I wanted to call it the shifter. I think, in fact, actually in the episode, it's called the shifter. But literally, it lives up to its namesake. It shifts the bodies of two individuals. I always wondered this in cartoon episodes. Whenever you have a bad guy coming up with weapons, like the voice imitator, like the shifter gun, even if they get destroyed, I'm sure he already knows how to build another one. These seem like practical weapons that a bad guy would always want to use, especially the shifter gun. If you're able to shift bodies with somebody else, why wasn't this the kind of thing that gets used more often in episodes? Anyways, I'm throwing out questions I know I'm never going to get the answers for. The next thing the figure also comes included with is what I feel to be the better of the two head sculpts, a screaming face with tongue included. I'm just going to take the claw weapon out of Vulture Man's hand, I should say. I want to show you guys the difference between the two heads. Sort of have a neutral mouth, of course, a neutral face, I should say, with the mouth closed. And then you have this one that has this screaming face, kind of like Monkey, and I seem to be following the same suit of wanting to have my figures on display with screaming expressions. The faces are painted very well in both the cases. It's kind of hard to kind of see Vulture Man's eyes, these tiny little beads of paint that they put inside. You can see it's on both the sides, but like his pupils are so tiny, it's almost even hard to make them out from a distance. Changing out the heads are pretty easy. Actually, before we do that, I want to show you that the goggles do fit over top of his head in both the cases. You can go fit them over top of this one, or you can also go ahead and pop the head off the ball joint. A little harder to do sometimes, but we go ahead and just pop the new one in place. I did heat this actually in preparation of this review. I guess I probably should have heated this a little bit more. And what I feel to be is the better of the two heads. We have this screaming face that you can then still take the goggles and still manage to put over top of his face. I think the eyes, even though as small as they may be, actually are too good to be covered by goggles. This is going to be my go-to when it comes to the detailing, or at least I should say my go-to when displaying this guy, because I like the detailed look of this head sculpt a lot more. I love the little tongue that he got sculpted at the bottom of that. As for the rest of Vulture Man's body, it looks very much like he does from the cartoon. One thing I thought was smart on Super7's part is they actually put a little slit right there in the fur that he has on top of his shoulders. So when it comes to articulation on the figure, though it's still limited here on the arm portion of things, you can at least still move the arms out. I don't know the longevity of this, whether this will continue to split. I know in a factory they cut this deliberately, but with it being softer plastic, if you have the arms always extended out like this, would this continue to start ripping a seam right there? I really hope that wouldn't be the case. But at least it does allow for the figure to have his arms move back and forth. We'll talk more about articulation in a second. He does have the skirting here, which is always one thing I found was strange about Vulture Man, the fact he would be wearing a skirt that's split at least along the side, so you can actually still, like the shoulders, still manage to bring his feet outward, or his legs outward. And speaking of his feet, look at the size of these gnarly looking feet. As you can see, long toenails like his hands sticking out, painted nicely here in white plastic, white paint, I should say. And he's got the peg holes on the undersides of his feet. For the figure's articulation, we'll go ahead and stick with the head sculpt that I think is the better of the two. This head, at least in both of the cases, the head's on a ball joint, and it seems to be the case that they actually have a dumbbell ball joint, one at the top, one at the bottom, that allows the head to move up and down. You can also rock it back and forth, and again, you can rotate it all the way around. Probably not advised, though. You can still move the arms out, as mentioned before, but again, I just don't know how well I would want to have that long term, because again, I feel like that would maybe start to split the plastic right along there. It's painted really well, though. You can take those arms and move them forward. Obviously, you can take them back and move them backward as well. He has a swivel at the bicep. Figure does have only a single hinge on the elbow, but at least it allows the rotation of his forearm, and you can rotate the hand all the way around. Figure hands also move back and forth this way. The figure does have an upper torso ball joint, and it does seem like he does have some movement down below here, but while moving it, though, you'll notice that the belt stays with the lower abdomen, and the skirt is the only thing that allows the lower legs to rotate. Again, softer plastic here. Because it's softer plastic and the splits on the side, Vulture Man can easily move his legs out this way. You can move them forward. You can move them back. Mild swivel at the top of the thigh, single hinge on the knee, and then he has the articulation in the foot and ankle rocker as well. I don't know what really accessory I'm going to choose when it comes to displaying Vulture Man. He's got a lot of good ones to choose from. Again, the voice imitator, and he's got the shifter gun. Again, really, think about this. If you were a bad guy and you were able to devise these two inventions, even if they were destroyed, I'm sure you probably have blueprints, or you have them in your head. Just create more of these, because I would probably be using, if I was a bad guy, I'd probably be using this gun all the time. One last time to also bring in, for comparisons, hopefully getting this guy to stand, we'll bring in back Monkey in. And again, I'm looking at the two figures. I'm not sure really which one I like more. I really also should have brought in Jackalman. I don't know where Jackalman is right now, but certainly looking at the two, I might still say I like Monkey just a little bit more, but I love the look of Vulture Man. Vulture Man always freaked out in the episodes. And I think for that reason alone, I think I'm probably leaning more away from the idea of actually displaying him with this head sculpt, as good as it may be, and going with the shrieking Vulture Man head sculpt instead. Here in Final Looks, I've got Vulture Man spinning around on the old rotisserie with the shifter or shifter gun in his hand. I would imagine that this is going to be the way I'm going to be displaying the figure on my shelf. Initially, I was going to be going with the claw weapon. I was thinking of, for some reason, Vulture Man with the claw weapon, but the idea that they threw in as much as they did, Super7 that is, not only with the Thundercats Ultimates figures that we've been looking at here on this channel, but really across the board with all of their Ultimates figures, always throwing in those fun episode accessories that you may not recognize right away. I had, in fact, a harder time to try to remember the shifter gun, but the fact that they would actually include that as something that if you ever watch the episodes again, you could easily point out, oh, there's the shifter gun that's in that episode, and only in that episode. Nice fact that they would actually include things like this. Now, when it comes to certainly displaying Vulture Man, I lean more again towards the shrieking, loud Vulture Man. Vulture Man was always seeming, why was it all the mutants, they always screamed and talked really loud? Vulture Man, I think, being the loudest of the bunch, with him always shrieking and cawing, or is that maybe a crow? He was always making really loud noises. And for that reason and that reason alone is probably why I'm going to be displaying him with this specific head sculpt. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't like the other one. I just think this is the better of the two. I don't think I would say that Vulture Man still tops my interest in Monkeyan. Monkeyan, I think, is my favorite of the mutants we've looked at so far. I have yet to pick up Slythe. I hope at some point that Super7 decides to re-release Slythe, because I never got the chance to get him the initial time before, and I really don't want to pay the crazy, stupid money that's going to go along with getting Slythe online. So I hope that they are eventually going to be releasing, because I already have Jackalman. I now have, well, we just recently looked at, not too long ago, we looked at Monkey, and now we're looking at Vulture Man. I'm getting almost all of the mutants. I just need myself a Slythe. What do you guys think of Vulture Man, though? Let me know down below in the comments section, and of the ones that Super7 have certainly released thus far. Would you say Vulture Man is the best of the mutants that we've gotten? Would you also agree that it's maybe either Slythe or even Monkeyan? I like Monkeyan so far of the figures I've picked up. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Also, as well, if you guys are interested to pick up Vulture Man for yourself and haven't had any chance, any luck to find this guy out in the wild, I did actually find this guy over on Entertainment Earth's website. He had popped up at one point, then he was sold out, and I was kind of hoping that eventually Entertainment Earth would then restock the guy, and sure enough they did. I jumped on it right away before this guy sold out again. So if you guys are interested and this guy is still in stock, certainly click the link down below in the video description. It'll take you on over to Entertainment Earth's website, and then you from there can pick up Vulture Man for yourself. If you guys certainly enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, yes, and that you're also turning on the bell notification. We are also going to be looking at more FYI, by the way, information for you. We are going to be looking at some more Super7 stuff coming your way, more Ultimate stuff, not necessarily Thundercats, but I will tell you though, there are two franchises that Super7 have just recently released Ultimate figures for. We will be looking at both of those lines in upcoming reviews if anybody wants to take a guess as to what those are. Lots of videos coming your way, guys, so as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.